One of the hardest parts of camps to navigate is the cost. Today, we're going to talk about 8 tips to keep costs low for your students.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Ministry Coach podcast, where we bring you weekly tips and tactics to help you fast track the growth and health of your ministry. This is the podcast that is the coach for the coachless. My name is Jeff Lascola. This is
Kristen Lascola.
And today we're actually going back a ways, kind of adding on to our camp series, talking about budget camps or how to do camps on a budget, which I'm sure a lot of churches are in that boat where money may not be flowing quite as freely. And so the kids maybe don't have as much money to spend on camp, or maybe your church just doesn't have a huge budget to spend towards camp. So this is addressing all those needs.
Right. And I think we all are trying to do camp as cost effectively as possible.
Totally.
So no matter where you're at budget wise, some of these tips could help. Obviously, not all of them will work for you. Take what you can, leave what you can't use. But this is designed for, maybe you serve a particular demographic that is really, camp is just not attainable for them. And this could be just a huge gift to your church, to your ministry, to your students to say, I'm going to figure out how to make camp possible for everyone.
Because camp is huge, right?
Yeah.
As a leader.
In terms of connectivity,
Exactly.
in terms of spiritual growth, in terms of just, I always say 1 week at camp is basically the connectivity and spirituality equivalent of like 6 months of attending church.
Totally.
It's just like church on steroids. And we have a saying at North Coast, like, camp is not for rich kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not for like the financially elite only.
Right.
Like, we want everyone to be able to attend camp. And we never ever turn a kid away. Maybe we could talk about scholarship kind of stuff on a different episode, but one way or another, we're going to get a kid to camp.
Right.
And so this episode is designed to help you maybe start a little bit ahead in the finance thing, because years and years ago, I stopped going to some of the prepackaged camps because my scholarship needs were just getting too steep and I couldn't do it anymore. And I would just cringe as I write an email to the parents saying, camp is coming, save the dates. It's only $1 billion for the week. Oh, you have 2 kids? Now it's $2 billion, and it just was hard for me. So right off the bat, we did a whole episode on prepackaged camp versus do-it-yourself camp.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're doing camp on a budget, let's just start with the agreement. Prepackaged is off the table, I would say, unless you have some camp really close by that does it super cheap. But if it is a super cheap camp, let me say, you'll probably get what you pay for, and you may be better off running your own anyways, because not naming any names, because I actually don't even remember the names, but I know either growing up or as a youth pastor, I've been to some camps that like, whoa, this is affordable, awesome. But it's like, oh, now I know why.
It's a dirt field and a sleeping bag. Enjoy.
Right. Yay. So we're going to try today to talk about giving kids a really good camp experience and not break the bank. So the highest costs to consider, these are the things that will suck your budget the quickest, will be the facility itself, potentially, not always. And we'll talk about how to dodge that bullet a little bit. Transportation. Especially where we live. I don't know what part of the country you're in right now, but our gas is literally, what is the cheapest? $4.29 right now?
No, I paid $3.89 the other day. I got a bargain. I filled up.
Wow. Because I passed by one of our stations today and it was $4.29. I was like, arr. So transportation is huge. And then obviously the prepackaged camps are another big budget suck. So it really for us comes down to transportation and the facility.
Yeah.
That's where our biggest bucks are going to come from. So that's what these tips kind of center around, is how to avoid those. Tip number 1, you might not want to do this, but shorten the length of your camp. So we do a full week. This year we're doing a Thursday to a Thursday, but maybe you want to just do a few days. And I've seen really good camps just be a handful of days, 4 days, 3 days,
Right.
5 days. I don't know, but a full week, every single day you do camp, it's going to hike that cost up. So if you have a church that is particularly sensitive to cost, you might want to consider, hey, do we need a whole week?
Yeah.
And right now, maybe on the inside, you're rejoicing. And you're like, no, we don't. You mean I can do less than a week? Yes, you can. You don't have to. I've seen camps do like a 4-day kind of thing, and that's still enough nights
Yeah.
to where you felt like you went on vacation, you went away. There's still great potential for connectivity. I don't think going from 4 to 7 or 8 days all of a sudden is like, oh, well, now there's no spiritual impact.
Right.
I really don't. I think you can do a shorter week. And that never even occurred to me until like a few years ago. Not that we do a shorter week,
prepackaged
but
a lot of times won't give you that option.
well, of course,
Right.
yeah. Jeff, that's off the table. Weren't
That's
you
off the
listening
table.
or
It's true.
not?
I think for me, the sweet spot is 5 days. And I kind of do that with regular vacations too, because when you take the first day and the last day, those are sort of travel days. You're getting there or you're getting home, and they don't
True.
necessarily count. And that leaves you three full
like
days.
solid days to be together.
Because I feel like when, as a leader, again, I mean, the kids, they'd probably want to be there for 3 weeks, but as a
Right.
leader, that's about when it
We're
starts.
out of gas.
Yeah, it's like, I'm ready to about go home.
Yeah.
And so I always think it's a comfortable amount of time. But
Yeah,
That's
I
me.
agree. So that's tip number 1, shorten the length. Tip number 2 is see if you can lodge for free. And that's actually not impossible.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you decided to do a camp that was more road trip style. So, one of the high school ministries at our church did a road trip style camp. And what they did is every day they would spend the night at a different church. And they would obviously arrange it ahead, not just like, sanctuary, let us in, but they arrange it.
there's no room for you in the inn. Keep going.
And they would pick different locations based on some churches that they maybe had relationships with, that they could spend the night there in their facility. The tricky part is showers, because most churches don't have them. And they didn't. They did not shower the entire time.
Gross.
So enjoy that van ride. So what they would do is, for example, one of their stops was Six Flags. Like the whole camp was just different pit stops. I think they went to Disneyland. They went to Six Flags. I think they did like Venice Beach or
You say Disneyland?
yes.
That right there will kill your
I
budget.
know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't do Disneyland. Maybe it was Knott's Berry Farm or something.
There you go.
They did, what's the one? Santa Monica Pier. Like they did all of these cool stops.
Classic, iconic places.
Yeah, that maybe the kids had been or not. And then they'd get back to a church in the evening, and then there would be the whole camp experience. They would do the message, they would do
Games.
worship, they would do a game. And I think he did his camp for, it was like under $200. Like
Wow.
it was so cheap. So that's one idea, is find a way to lodge for free. Another way you could lodge for free, and I've seen this done at a church more local to us, and they did a beach camp. So what they would do is stay at their own church, and they do the whole camp thing at the church. So it was like sleepover, night overnight, and they would do the message at the church and all that kind of stuff. And then every morning they would shuttle the kids down to the beach, have a whole like beach program for them. If you don't live on the coast, you could also just find like a cool lake
Yeah.
nearby, or, some kind of place that you could just have the church be home base and then go and do stuff. So you could combine that with like the road trip idea. If you had enough places that were within, I'd say an hour drive is reasonable. Stay at the church, do your thing, come back to the church, do something else the next day, come back to the church. And it's just like this like constant tour of your area, and maybe some fun things that kids have never done. Like you could go to a paintball facility. I don't know. Sky's the limit on that kind of stuff. But it just takes care of your lodging fees. And that is where, we end up paying a lot of money. And to be honest, even if we go somewhere cool, the lodging sucks anyways. Like we're not, there's one camp we go to where it's like, wow, this is like actually a really nice
Yeah.
cabin. And they only let the girls stay in the nice ones. The boys have like these like plastic mattress dorms, and the kids still have a blast,
Right.
but it's not like, if you can just find cool places to drive to, they just want to stay together. So as long as they're staying together, it's not like, okay, everyone go home, but it's like if you're staying together at the church, one more lodging idea, and I've seen this done, is if you can find small group homes to host small groups in the evenings. So for example, they would all come to the church and do their big program. And this was more for like a winter camp so that you're not asking people, can a bunch of junior hires stay at your house
For a
for
week.
5 days? But it was like a weekend. I forget what they called it, but they would all come to the church, do program, fun stuff. I was a speaker for it. And that's why I was like, whoa, I've never seen this done before. And then after the program was over that night, like 9 o'clock, they would all go back to their small group host home, and then they'd come back the next day, or the small group would plan something fun to do the next day out and about. Like they had this whole schedule, but that's an option too. If you can find host homes and a central gathering place, you just got free lodging. So tip number 3 is along the same lines as lodging, but maybe not actually full free, but maybe for super cheap. So here's some tips of cheap lodging. Some facilities will have an option for you to rent space, but not participate in a program. So like if you go to a prepackaged camp, it's really expensive because you're paying for their staff and they run rec for you.
They get a speaker.
They have the speaker. They have the worship,
band.
everything. But there are some kind of random hodgepodge camps out in the mountains where they're like, hey, we have cabins, we have a pool, we have basketball courts, we have stuff, and you're welcome to it, but you run it on your own.
Right.
And we've done those kinds of camps before. They were awesome because all we really needed was the facility. So that's always a little bit cheaper. Another cool option that I've seen done and was a blast, this was more for high school. I don't know that I would do this one with junior high, is to find some kind of Airbnb deal. So one of our high school ministries does an awesome camp out in Indio, and they get these giant houses. I mean, these houses are meant for people going to Coachella, but when it's not Coachella, they're just there and nobody really wants to go to Indio, I don't think, if it's not Coachella. So there's these giant houses. They get a really good deal, and they basically get houses on the whole block. So they'll put like sophomore boys and junior boys in one, sophomore girls and junior girls in the other. Like they'll figure it out, and then all come central for a message. They did really creative things, like each home hosted a different meal, and it was based on maybe a different country. Like we're doing Italian at this house tonight. We're doing Mexican at this house tonight. So they would have community, and then everyone to also go back to their own house. So Airbnb. And I think if you mention you're a nonprofit, I know I get a pretty good deal on the cabin that I use for my leader retreat, my volunteers, because I told him, hey, I'm a church nonprofit. I'm not a church, but I am the church. I am part of the body of Christ. I say, and that's exactly what I told him. I am part of the body of Christ. May I have a deal? No, I said, we're nonprofit. Do you do anything for people like me? And he was a Christian, and he was so excited.
Yeah.
And so he gave me a sweet deal. So sometimes if
Doesn't
you
hurt
mention
to
it,
ask.
it never hurts to ask. What's the worst they could say is no. So yeah, that's another great option. And then lastly, on tip number 3 is classic campground. So just it's like large group sites that some of them you can have up to 100 on, which are great at a lake or at a beach or something like that. So sometimes getting that, I mean, obviously you run your stuff, but if it's near a body of water, there's plenty to do. Our high school group does that. They go to a huge camp group site. They get boat drivers out there and they wakeboard all week, and it's incredible, and it's very affordable. I think they do it for, I don't want to say it because if I'm wrong, it's like, wait, what are you talking about? But it's very reasonable for the whole week. Okay, so that's lodging. So tip number 4, get meals donated. So food is not, I'm not going to put it on the highest of costs, but it's like right there.
Tier 2.
Yeah. Food is expensive. It's 3 meals a day for a week for all these people. So if you're at a camp that is fairly local, If your church has a small group, life group, growth group, whatever your groups are called, ministry, our church like suggests every quarter you guys do a service project together. And so they're always looking for service projects to do. Hello, you could be their service project. So the suggestion would be, we're looking for life groups to sponsor our camp and bring us meals throughout the week. So maybe they all get together and they make a big lasagna and salad and bread, and then they come and bring it to your campsite if you're local. If you're not local, then what you do is you come up with a shopping list, and you have to meal plan, guys. Get real organized here. You meal plan for the whole week, and then you create a shopping list, and then you ask for donations for that. So we need 80 hamburger buns. We need 400 bottles of water. I don't know, but you can get it donated as a service project for life groups. And then whatever you don't get, then you go and buy it. So that's an option also to kind of cut that cost down. We did a beach camp once for I think it was our 4th and 5th grade ministry. And people would come and bring food down to the beach every night. And if it's a smaller camp, it's so much more doable.
Totally.
If you're only taking like 10 to 15 kids or less, this is like
one person could theoretically do that for them.
Totally. Or they could order you pizza if they don't want to come down, or big sub sandwiches or something like that.
What about Little Caesars? I heard the kids enjoy that.
Is Little Caesars nationwide?
I think so.
Okay, because it's a very good deal.
Yes.
And Little Caesars, I feel like without
90% of their
youth
business
groups,
is from youth groups.
You're going out. You're going down.
Yeah.
You know. Also, if you want to invite life groups to come and cook at your site too. So they don't just have to like cook it and drop it off. Like sometimes it's kind of fun, like for them to actually be involved in serving and like actually be with the least of these and, you know, do that as like a big group project. It's kind of like a win-win for them and a win-win for you and your ministry. So that's a creative way to do meals.
Totally.
Number 5, here's something we did for winter camp, and we saved a ton. And I'm going to do this every year now. So we go to winter camp about an hour away, maybe a little more, hour 15. And we were always renting buses and taking kids up there. Except COVID happened, and we're like, oh no, what if we shouldn't all be in a bus together? So the parents just dropped them off. And then the parents picked them up. So if you have, it was glorious, and we save hundreds of dollars. And the best part is that cost goes to the kids. It's not like, yes, more money in our pocket. It's like, no, I'm saving these families money. It was wonderful. So if you pick a spot that's within driving distance, now for winter camp, I would say within driving distance, I don't know if I'd go over an hour and a half to ask parents to do their own transportation, because that, you know, is a kind of a quick turnaround for the weekend. If it's a week, I'd say you could stretch that. What do you think? To 2 hours ish?
Yeah,
if
because
it's going to be a whole week.
That's the whole thing, is you don't want to feel like I just did this drive.
Yeah.
And if it's 2 hours, and that's annoying, and that, yeah, with it being a weekend, that's getting a little much. For a week, I think that seems reasonable. But you have to realize it's 2 hours one way, 2 hours the other way.
Right, but a whole week, I think, you know, you could.
That would probably be maximum.
Yeah. So if you do a camp within 2 hours, just know you'll save a ton of money on transportation that way. Number 6, this is something I do, and maybe you already do this and you're like, wait, there's another way. So normally I try to have my students cover the cost of my leaders. So like whatever the students would be charged, then I factor in, well, they need chaperones and it costs this much for my leaders to go. And then I divide that by the number of students, and the students' cost increases by whatever that is. But for a camp like what we do, our whitewater rafting trip, it's just too unreasonable to pass that entire cost on to my kids. And I'm like, leaders, you're going whitewater rafting for free. Okay, you can pitch in. And they do. And so I don't charge them the full cost, but it really helps us offset the cost to figure out a percentage that they might. And I don't want them to pay the whole thing, because they are still
Taking a week off, working.
Yeah, from their family,
Right.
from their job, from their school, whatever they would have been doing. And whitewater rafting is a blast, but it's also with junior hires, and that is also exhausting to a point, you
Right.
know, like the first few days are a good time, and then oh my goodness, another kid is homesick. Okay, like I'm exhausted. So we need to our full cost of camp for kids is $420.
Mhm.
And what I ask my leaders to pitch in is like $100 for that. If they can. If they're like, I absolutely can't, I want to come, I'm not going to say no, you know, I'll figure it out. But I say it's more like love offering, you know, when people are like, pay me, but I don't want to boss you around, but pay me. So it's kind of one of those things. Okay. And then number 7, this saves me also hundreds of dollars, and maybe you already do this. Ask to borrow vehicles before you rent them. Now, this is just kind of like a EQ tip, I guess. If you borrow someone's car, this seems so obvious, yet this story is a tale as old as time. Do not return a personal vehicle in awful condition.
Dirty, empty tank, broken stuff.
Yeah, we have had instances where personal vehicles have been borrowed. And have you ever been in a van or an SUV after a week of junior hires getting in and out of it in wet shoes and eating candy? And it's like disgusting.
Right.
So you need to count the costs before you ask to borrow a personal vehicle if you're willing to incur all the responsibilities that go along with that. What I like to do is not only have it washed and cleaned, but I go and get their oil changed before I return it.
Or at least give them a gift card to get their oil changed.
Right. Because that is extremely generous for somebody to do that. And if you burn that bridge, oof.
Now, this is not maybe as frequent that this happens, but this has happened, is that, well, let me take a step back and say this. Make sure you kind of know who you're asking. If you know they have a vehicle that you would want to take, you could reach out to them, because I think it was 1 or 2 times you guys had some people bring vehicles. Yeah, you can borrow my vehicle. And it was like about half a mile away from breaking down.
Yes.
Oh, well, you broke it, you bought it kind of thing. Or it's like, wait, we got to pay for your new axle because it like fell off when we left the parking lot. Sorry.
Yeah.
So,
when you
and
borrow stuff.
I'm assuming they didn't, I'm hoping they didn't do it on purpose.
No, I don't think
but
so.
when it showed up, it was like, this jalopy, you wanted to go that far? Like, God bless you, but that's not going to make it.
Yeah. And that's the cost you count also with borrowing anything,
Right.
really, you know, just knowing either you have to be super responsible or no, you may get a piece of crap. But that hasn't happened a ton. And if you don't know who to ask.
Twice I can think of.
Well, maybe I blocked it out. I can only remember one. But also, like, we've asked from the front, and sometimes we get trucks or SUVs or something that are not even people in our ministry. They're just like, hey, I want to help. Here you
Right.
go. You can, like, this one couple, like, I don't even think they had kids. They had this really nice, huge truck, and they were just like, here you go. I'm like, ooh, thank you.
And just like you would at a car rental place, go around the car beforehand and document anything that you notice.
Yeah.
Because I one time let my van get borrowed. Then when it came back, I'm like, that dent was not there.
Really?
But it was like, I'm not going to, it's our van. It's not that
Was
spectacular.
it a church?
Yeah, it was our church. Not your ministry, but another ministry. It was a while ago. But yeah, and
let's
I think
play process of elimination.
now here's the thing. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe I gave it to them and it was like
Maybe
that.
you
That's
are
why
the
I didn't
doofer.
really make a big deal out of it. But I think do your due diligence. Just so that nothing comes up later. But go around the car and just pictures or whatever, but document like there's a scratch here. There's a
Well, that's what they do with the rentals.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
So you
same
have to
thing.
CYA.
I thought it was see ya.
It could be.
See ya, jalopy. I don't know what a jalopy is. When you said that, I was just like, a jalopy.
Okay.
Sounds like a restaurant. Now I'm hungry. Let's go to jalopies.
It does sound delicious.
It does. Okay, last tip number 8. Use in-house talent and gifts. Okay. So that means you may want to trade speaking with another youth pastor in your in your church. So if you're high school, maybe you want to ask the college pastor or the junior high pastor and then say, I'd be happy to teach for you for free also. So that way you're not paying for teaching. But if they're not going to trade, please compensate them something, come up with an agreement. I know we don't pay in-house the same that we pay out-house.
Kind of.
Out of house. So don't be cheap, but you can save money trading, teaching, or going in-house. That goes for worship or graphics or tech or whatever. If you have like a leader who's really good at Photoshop, they can do a graphic for your camp, something like that. With the asterisk, don't be cheap. So I think I've already said that, but I think in ministry, we like to use people's gifts and talents without compensating them. And that's still people's time. It doesn't matter like, oh, it was for the Lord and I just want to serve. If they make 6 figures and on the side, they really enjoy making your graphics, then sure, if that's the way that they give their love offering. But the majority of people want to be compensated for their time and talents and abilities. So you just need to create margin for that. Don't spend all your money on rec stuff and then be like, sorry, I can't pay you. Oh, here's a Starbucks
But isn't this
gift
fireworks
card.
display we have going on amazing?
I got you a candle. Thanks. So anyways, that's it. And now we have a question of the day.
We do. Before that, if you guys got a lot of value out of this episode, make sure you hit like and subscribe. For those of you listening on the podcast.
Or send us a candle.
Or send us a candle. No candles. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you subscribe there too and leave a review. So the question of the day is, again, going off of the job theme, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And make sure you guys leave your answer in the comments as well.
So I wanted to be a fashion designer. And when I was in 4th grade, I had a catalog of all my fashions written in crayon, of course. And it was called Crisco, Krisco, you know, Crisco. And I designed a bunch of different outfits. I drew them in crayon and then I would describe them on the side. Like, this is a cashmere button-up sweater.
How old were you?
4th grade. Okay. And with the blah, 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 like I made descriptions of each one. I think I even priced them out. Like this is $25 or something so that if anyone wanted to order it, I don't know what would have happened if they actually did. But I was going to be a fashion designer until I realized I'm not good at it. So, and I don't really know much about
Looking
fashion.
at some of the fashion out there, I don't think those people are good at it either.
Oh,
shots fired.
So I did not become a fashion designer. Instead, I worked at Wetzel's Pretzels.
No,
that was a different episode.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a fighter pilot in the Air Force.
Was it after you saw Top Gun?
Probably, because I was so little when I saw that. I think everything was after Top Gun. But my dad, I think to encourage me in my endeavors, said, well, you know, if you want to be a fighter pilot, you got to be good at math. And I'm like, not doing fighter pilot anymore.
That dream
A,
died.
I'm not good
very
at math.
quickly.
B, I don't want to get any better at math. So yeah, that was the end of the fighter pilot dream of mine. So, but right now it is time to announce the winner of this week's giveaway. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, sorry. But if you go back and watch or listen to our episode on Upfront Games, we give all the information about our giveaway that's currently going on for the next, this will be the 3rd week. I don't know. It was supposed to be
7
50
weeks?
days total, 7 weeks of giveaways, one grand prize winner at the end, which would be worth $125 in goodies. So today's winner of a free t-shirt is Mr. Wesley Tice. Tice baby.
Oh, I
He's
was
probably
like,
heard that a
what?
million times. Sorry.
Yay, Wesley! Can we call you Wes?
I think we can. I think that's what he goes by. I think he goes by Wes.
All right, Wes. Way to go. You won. We're
Congratulations!
so excited. Wes.
For the rest of you guys, make sure you enter the giveaway before it's over. And we will see you guys in our next episode.